Welcome back to another video on Elite Exotic Essentials. My name's Edward, and I'm back. The YouTube streets need me, and I'm essential before essential was even... I'm essential before they needed essential work. Let's go with that. So, in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to proof Batman kills a lot. So, I noticed... Okay, so I've been getting back into the Batman Arkham series. And with Batman, he be doing a bunch of stuff in that game that should kill you, because he be like dropping light bulbs, not light bulbs, but like lights with those big, the light with the big thing on it. You know how when you have gym class and you see the lights and it had that that crate on it? Not crate, but like some type of gate to prevent a ball from going up and hitting it and breaking it. He be dropping those on people. He be putting their heads in like electric generators, and somehow they label it as unconscious, which we all know they should be dead. They should be dead. But let's see Batman, see if he's really out here doing. Let's see if he's really violating his moral code of not killing people. Okay, let's start the video. I'm reacting to Game Theory. Or Game Theorists.
It's a great old house. Good balls, wraparound porch.
Yeah, man, ads.
At least Geico makes bundling our home and car insurance easy.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
Awesome video, nice.
Dear Rocksteady Studios, or is it DC Comics?
DC Comics.
Or Telltale? Or I don't know. There's like 1,000 developers and publishers and owners of the Batman IP. I can't keep them straight anymore. Hi, it's me, Austin. I'm here.
I wonder if there's so many owners. I'm trying to think, how's the money? Because the Batman Arkham series is very profitable and it's a really good game. There's definitely a lot of money, but how much are they splitting it, like the ownership of the game? Like, they're splitting it among everybody. I feel DC should be the one getting the most money, because they're the one who created the character and they own the rights to it. Or yeah, they own the rights to it and they're just licensing it out. So of course, definitely they're getting their money, and then everybody else, they gotta fight over how much money they're getting. Let's go.
To ruin your day. You know, Batman has definitely got to be my favorite superhero. Stretching to way back. When I was a little kid, he was definitely in the top 3, along with Zorro and Indiana Jones. For years, my favorite movie was Batman Returns. Although, if I'm being entirely honest, my main focus was Catwoman. Catwoman, Zorro, Indiana Jones, a lot of whips going on there. I guess how I like to spend my free time in post-pubescence really isn't that much of a mystery. Where was I? Oh, right! Ruining Batman. I love Batman.
I don't have time to talk about your weird childhood. We gotta get to this Batman.
Because of this, I play almost every Batman game I can get my hands on. My first one being the Batman Returns for the SNES, where I had to punch my beloved Catwoman in the face. Ah! The torture! Anyway, recently I played through the Telltale Batman series, and holy crap, I freaking loved it! And when it was over, I immediately started mainlining the Arkham series so I could perpetuate my Batman addiction, and holy crap, guys, I just realized Batman is a goddamned murderer. And, like, this wouldn't be a big deal for a comic book superhero, but we're not talking about Punisher or Deadpool. This is freaking Batman. He's got 2 rules: no guns and no killing. I'm not a coward who hides behind a gun. But Batman is a bad...
Oh, yeah, he definitely don't kill people because his parents was killed and he don't want to hurt anybody. And then guns... Well, yeah, the man had a traumatic childhood. If he didn't have that traumatic experience change his whole life, he would have just been another regular billionaire, and his life would have been as fulfilling if he was fighting crime. Because, you know, I'm trying to think about it. Like, every time He gotta wake up each day, go on the back computer, fight people, and every time he encounters some type of near-death experience, it should, like, the average person wouldn't be able to handle that psychologically. But Batman, because he's driven by a deeper purpose and is giving him a satisfaction because he knows that he's helping his city. I like that. Because there's one book that said, it's better for you to struggle it's better for you to struggle and deal with the pain of something to get to a positive than to just have the positive. Because there's nothing really fulfilling. If you just in your comfort zone and you just got pleasure, it's not going to be happy for you. You're not going to be happy.
Bad boy, Batman is a vigilante, and Batman doesn't believe in following the rules, including, it turns out, even his own.
Of course.
Austin, Batman's not a murderer, I hear you typing frantically into the comments. He even says so, and we have evidence. The evidence being, like, you never see him do it. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? You think so, huh? Well, let me strap on my lab coat, my science hat, and prove to you conclusively that the Caped Crusader is the worst superhero of all time.
he just killed him with a batarang. Those 2008 Batman trilogy, those batarangs would have hurt. But it's weird because, okay, so I'm playing Batman Arkham Knight, and the game still looks good to this day. And if you don't know my podcast with Justin, the Jamie podcast, go follow it, link in the description. So yeah, I just downloaded the free 2008 Christopher Nolan Batman skin. I was able to activate it and download it, and now I own it. Yep. Okay, now let's get back to the video. Is that Crash Bandicoot? No, that's not. I got Xbox all day.
I first realized something was up while doing one of my favorite moves in Arkham Asylum, the vertical upside down takedown, where you hang upside down and grab mooks that pass underneath you. You then tie rope to their ankles and just let go. That's some savage as hell treatment, but it's not fatal, right? Right? Wrong. Now, listen, I'm not gonna say that hanging upside down is fatal. In fact, there's been a few studies that look at this exact thing because in 1980, Richard Gere played a male escort in the movie American Gigolo, and there was a scene of him working out while suspended upside down, and oh my god, the 80s, could you not? Anyway, the sight of the then gorgeous man flesh and sex idol doing a thing made everybody else want to do that thing, so naturally, inquiring scientific minds wanted to know, is hanging upside down dangerous? Turns out, well, no. Kinda. Sorta. Hanging upside down itself is not that dangerous, but it does create a 25% increase in blood pressure. This happens because the heart is actually designed to pump harder towards your head. This is because gravity pulls your blood down towards your feet. If you're upside down, however, your blood is pumping hard towards your head, which is also getting helped by the force of gravity. The good news is the blood is pooling in the right direction. If you have to choose between too much blood in your head and too little, I recommend too much. Too little can starve your brain of oxygen and kill you within minutes if you're not careful. However,
I thought, like, if you hang upside down for too long, the blood will rush to your brain and, like, cause damage. Because I think I saw that in, well, it's a crime show, CSI Miami. But, you know, that show's not, it's not factual.
high blood pressure isn't good. I mean, if it gets high enough, blood vessels can burst. The important ones. The ones that bring oxygen to your brain. This can cause pressure on your brain and force you to lose consciousness and suffer permanent, debilitating brain damage. Anybody that knows someone that's had a stroke can attest to this. It's not an easy thing to recover from. But a healthy-ish adult being hung upside down is really unlikely to suffer a stroke with a 25% increase in blood pressure without some other factor coming into play. And it's here that we get our first gruesome murder technique of the Dark Knight. You see, because Batman isn't just casually lowering criminals down. They're not just gently hanging there like Richard Gere's moose knuckle. He straight up drops them like they're made of dog poop. These mooks are pretty close to Batman's height, and we can actually calculate how fast they drop using their bodies as a frame of reference.
Oh, that's gonna call
Batman is
whiplash.
6 foot 2 inches or 1.87 meters. That means that these mooks are dropping over 4.5 meters with an acceleration of G or 9.81 meters per second squared.
Yeah, that's gonna cause whiplash. Because that happened to Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man.
This means that these bros, by the time they reach the end of the rope, they're traveling over 9.3 meters per second or over 20 miles per hour. Then, like that, they snap to a halt. And then you can flick away and see that their heart rate rises to about 155 beats per second. Fun! The game says that this is because they're
Wait, what happened? What was that?
terrified, but you to a halt. And then you can flick away and see that their heart rate rises to about 155 beats per second. Fun! The game...
Editor's notes. Beats per minute. Okay, Austin's totally fired. Right?
game says that this is because they're terrified, but you know what? I think it's worse. I think it's because they're experiencing immense pain. You know why? Because if someone ties a rope around your ankles and just drops you that distance from something that's not a freaking bungee cord, your ankles experience over 40,000 newtons of force as the rope snaps taut and your bones flex. This is way more than enough force to snap your flimsy ankles and probably break a couple other bones in your legs and dislocate your hips. These mooks are in agony, but it gets worse. These dudes hanging upside down are knocked unconscious in a little over 10 seconds. Now, passing out from pain is possible, but it's really unlikely, it turns out. When people pass out from pain, it's usually from some other factor. And then the unconscious episode is temporary. No, this is something else. And you're more likely to pass out from low blood pressure, not high blood pressure, which, as you'll recall, your blood pressure while upside down increases. Something else is happening here. Something worse. Something terrible. Rapid deceleration and broken bones means one thing: internal bleeding.
You're late. Gotta get him changed.
Yeah. Yeah, internal bleeding is no joke because you're bleeding from the inside. People think you could be okay on the outside, but inside you're slowly hurting. Gotta stay away from nicotine. And stay away from addiction. That's terrible.
Bones contain bone marrow, and the legs contain a major artery, the femoral artery. If put under the right stresses, mixed with a little bad luck and the wrong amount of torque, this artery can shear open. Even worse, internal organs can experience what's called deceleration trauma, which is when your internal organs experience severe enough G-forces and literally tear away from surrounding blood vessels. This is bad news because these mooks experience a whopping 58 Gs. This means me, a 65-kilogram man, would suddenly feel like I weigh a massive 3,700 kilograms, or over 8,000 pounds. Broken bones plus possibly severed major arteries and veins plus high blood pressure plus a high heart rate is a recipe for one horrific condition: hypovolemic circulatory
Wait a second.
shock. High blood pressure plus a...
I'm back. My mom, she asked me for some tea. Learning with Raquel Lita. Subscribe to her channel in the description below. I gotta go get my tea. Wait one second. Okay, welcome back. I'm back. I got some tea. Let's go.
by panic or pain means that those severed blood vessels are going to lose blood a lot faster. This causes a damaging positive feedback loop where a bad supply of blood leads to rapid cell damage, which leads to an inflammatory response by the body to increase blood flow to that area, which in turn deprives the body of more precious blood, which causes more cell death. And oh my god, it is just the worst thing. Shock is a major cause of death among people with major illnesses is, and if left untreated, the risk of death is basically 100%, especially if you reach stage 4 hypovolemic circulatory shock. Stage 4 is defined by a low blood pressure due to there not being a ton of blood left circulating, an incredibly fast pulse over 140 beats per minute, followed by one of two things: coma or death. This is the only stage that has lack of consciousness as a symptom. Once stage 4 is reached, brain death can happen in as little as 10 minutes without an immediate blood transfusion. And we can even measure this using what's called the shock index, a tool that emergency medical responders use to assess situations. It's really, honestly, pretty simple. Heart rate divided by blood pressure. Given that the average blood pressure is 120 plus 25% for being upside down, and given that Batman actually reads their beats per minute, we can determine that this mook with a heart rate of over 150 and a blood pressure of 150 has a shock index of 1.033. Anything over 0.9 is bad, and that number is going to get higher as he experiences further blood loss. Best case scenario, we're talking persistent vegetative state. Nobody who passes out from being upside down for a long period of time has a long and healthy life ahead of them. Even if not everyone he does this to dies, considering the rate at which he loves to dangle mooks in front of their friends, Batman has at least killed, like, 5 dudes this way. You know, like a murderer. But to be entirely honest, this is the least terrible thing that he does. If we're being generous, we can just admit that this is a game mechanic. Rocksteady just wanted to put mooks permanently out of commission, and they didn't want to think about it that hard. Big whoop! Rocksteady doesn't accurately model hanging people upside down. Color me surprised! Unfortunately, though, this is just an appetizer for the main course, because what I have for you next will blow your goddamned minds.
If you vape nicotine, you could be inhaling toxic metals like nickel, chromium, and lead that can damage your lungs.
Sad.
You and I know that the whole hanging people upside down thing is, at the end of the day, a parlor trick. Batman does it to freak people out. This isn't what Batman is at his heart. The thing he does best, better than anybody, is fisticuffs. The best way to fight crime is by punching it into submission. No risk of death, no guns, no gadgets, just good old pummeling till they stop moving. Except, as it turns out, beating people until they stop moving is really, really bad for them. Just ask No-Dos after Duco's done with him. But Austin, I hear you saying, being somewhat annoying and interrupting my video. What about boxing? I mean, that's an entire thing. A thing about punching people until they don't move anymore. And nobody dies in that sport. Worst case scenario, they lose an ear or two. Okay, well, you have a fair point. Boxing is, along with American football, built upon...
Why'd I have to bring up Mike Tyson biting someone here, y'all? But yeah, but it's the long-term effects after the boxing, after the football. Did you not see that movie Concussion with Will Smith? Talk about the link between the NFL and concussions.
A solid foundation of normalizing permanent and debilitating brain damage. But it's really rare for people to drop dead. That being said, since 1890, there have been over 700 in-ring deaths in boxing. So, that's fun. Why is that? Well, it all boils down to your brain. I used to think that a knockout in boxing was a straight-up coma state, non-responsive, visually dead. This actually isn't the case. Boxers who are knocked out rarely lose consciousness entirely, and if they do, it's for less than a second. In order to understand this, we're gonna have to look at the nature of punching, brains, and concussions. The worst part to get punched in is the chin. This seems counterintuitive since it's really far from the brain, but that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. You see, in order to cause brain damage, minor or otherwise, you have to make the brain impact with something. You can do this by punching someone in the top of the head, but you have to hit them really hard. The best way, though? The best way is to actually get the skull to rotate really fast so the brain, which is suspended in fluid, jiggles around and smacks into the walls of the skull. Because hitting the chin imparts the most rotational force force and leverage, this is one of the best places to land a knockout punch. Boxers call it the button, which to me is just a horrifying colloquialization of destroying someone's nervous system. Other good
Yeah, you gotta watch out for the mean uppercuts.
places are the side of the head near the temples because the bone is softer and it also imparts rotation. When the brain experiences an impact, even a minor one, the person's brain is permanently damaged. Acutely, this is called a concussion, and all knocked out boxers have concussions and experience a ton of cognitive impairment. As with just about everything in humanity, this isn't a simple on-off switch. It's a gradient, measurable by the Glasgow Coma Scale. The Glasgow Coma Scale is a metric that takes a bunch of symptoms, assigns a number to them, and adds them together to give people a general idea of what's going on. A severely knocked out boxer, for example, would have a Glasgow score of about 9. They open their eyes in response to questions, they mutter incoherently, and they don't react to pain normally. But what on earth does this have to do with Batman? Batman isn't punching people until they fumble around like they're drunk. He's knocking them out cold for hours. To test this, I even left my game running overnight to see if the mooks he punched out ever wake up. They don't! They don't respond to pain in the form of me battering them to hell. They don't talk. They don't open their eyes. These guys register as a 3 on the Glasgow Coma Scale. This is colloquially called 2 things. Number 1, a deep coma, or number 2, death.
Sad. Yeah, because Batman, yeah, because that's usually true with Batman, because you be in a room with full of like 30 to 11 dudes, and then your Batman have to take them all out by himself, and then you do, yeah, that's a lot. Batman be doing too much. He's doing too much, but that's probably why he's the most effective dude out here. I need to skip this ad. I know that's good because this is forever money, but I got a video too. They're not being sensitive to my needs. Or not sensitive, but aware of my needs. Well, I'm gonna stop complaining.
Even if we're talking a Glasgow scale of higher degrees like 5 or 6, the death rate of all people, even if they get medical treatment, that reach this level of brain damage is 17%. That means out of every 10 mooks Batman beats into non-responsiveness and leaves face down in a puddle of their own blood, at least one of these dudes is dying. When someone isn't moving like this, it's because they're experiencing hematomas, epidermal, subdural, intracerebral, take your pick. That's what happens when you beat on someone until their middle meningeal artery pops open. And Batman punches the crap out of a lot more than 10 dudes in the Arkham series. It's like in the hundreds. And what about these shot gloves that are powerful enough to stop hearts? Or what about the fact that when you choke someone until they lose consciousness, they wake up almost as soon as blood flow returns to the brain, which means the only way these dudes you're choking out are staying down is because you're probably severing their spinal cords. Or there's this explosive gel that literally blows up walls. Batman, you are literally blowing people up and showering them in cement shrapnel. You are making grenades and the Batmobile and the freaking mounted gun. What?
That's true. That's true. That's the same cannon you use to take out unmanned drone tanks. And then I can use that same cannon on people. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Of course, it's a video game, but realistically, it doesn't make sense. That's why it's just a video game. I shouldn't get too caught up in it. I gotta live in this real world and better myself and better my life for my family. Let's finish.
This is a gun.
No, that's just too much.
I'm starting to think that this whole no-killing thing is just some propaganda perpetuated by the police of Gotham who are paid by Wayne Enterprises to cover up the massive number of homicides Batman is responsible for. Batman lowers the crime crime rate, so who cares if he kills 17 to 30% of the people he interacts with? If that isn't a smoldering indictment of the American justice system, I don't know what is. Batman is either a liar and a freaking serial killer with no conscience and a hatred of the poor, or his rich upbringing literally made him so isolated from the struggles of the everyman that he doesn't know what death is.
Do you not know what death is?
Maybe he never got grief counseling after his parents died and he literally thinks the villains are sleeping. I mean, his
I can
main
see that.
form of therapy is cosplaying in a fetish outfit and punching people in the skulls until they no longer remember their high school education. This is exactly why we need transparency in our policing system. This is exactly why we have checks and balances. Batman's checks and balances are a mentally ill man in clown makeup and a giant roided out jock. Congratulations, Rocksteady. You made Batman
Oh, also you forgot a mutated croc or alligator monster.
a freaking killer. Or I guess he always was one. But you made him a worse one. You upgraded him from occasional whoopsie of negligence to full-blown mass murderer. Congratulations! You made me ruin my favorite superhero. I hope you're happy. Sincerely, Austin. Thank you everyone for watching my video on Batman!
Okay, that was a really good video. Thank you. And yeah, he's telling the truth. Batman be out here doing all this crazy stuff, and no one really stops him. Cause like he said, he's lowering the crime rate. These people, like other regular people, view these criminals as well, like I said, criminals. So if some people are just like caught in a crossfire, mainly no, like some people get hurt by Batman in ways that they can't recover, or not at all. Then they kind of turn a blind eye to it because he's bringing down the crime rate. He's saving people, supposedly. Well, yeah, it's all twisted out here. But it's just video games, so I gotta focus. Thank you. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Have a good day.